All right, strap in, besties, because we have another story time. And okay, I know what I said before, like that I was gonna drop 2 videos, but like, I'm sorry. It's been a lot going on this side. Today we have a submission. So most of these stories are submitted stories, so let's just get straight into it. Somebody submitted this, and I believe she wants to remain anonymous. And this one is also a really, really long story, so stick with me, and I'm also gonna be reading it through my phone. Okay, so we're gonna call the person who submitted the story Rose, okay? Okay, so growing up, she always had dreams and visions of things that would actually happen. Psychics and voodoo priests were basically in her family. They ran very heavy in her family. So she's been blessed to be able to have certain visions of things happening and things that will happen before they actually happen. So she would have visions warning her before things actually take place. So some form of psychic. She said she would have dreams that warn her about anybody that she dates and show her their problems and flaws. So one day, around the age of 26, which took place last year, she paid a visit to this voodoo priest. They called him Papa. He had bluish puddle-looking eyes that glow a little bit, and he looked white. But he was kind of like Irish and Jewish, so he was born with a veil over him. I don't really know exactly what that means, but Rose described this priest as having some form of a veil over Papa, the priest. So, he knew he would be a witch. So the veil, I guess, would signify that he would be a witch. Usually that's what that means, apparently. So, Rose pays this man $500 for her visit. And she expected good outcomes for money, success, and protection. So this man went on. So basically, she went to this priest, right? She says, I need money, protection, wisdom. I need all the great things. So she goes to Papa and she gives him $500. And of course, if you're giving somebody $500 and if they were initiated or if they were born a priest, then of course you're going to trust them. Of course, you know. So the priest went on and took 5 images of Rose. This is very important. Which when she got the pictures printed. Which after he took the pictures, she went and got the pictures printed and gave it back to him so that he can do his work. So basically, so he took the pictures, she went, got them printed, brought it back to the priest, and then the priest got the pictures and got to work. So the priest winds up giving her this powder of bags with stuff to protect her. So the priest winds up giving her this, so basically, the priest winds up giving her like these bags of powder. It's there basically to protect her. So when she keeps those bags with her, then she knows that she has guaranteed protection. And he had also given her 4 of those bags. So she put one in her car, she put one in her living room, and she put the other 2 in her room. And basically, Papa instructed her not to get them wet. She doesn't know why, but the priest literally could not stress on do not get those bags with the sand wet. Just don't get it wet. And he also instructed her to bathe with some Frankenstein oil. Now, I'm not really familiar with Frankenstein oil, but I've heard a lot about it. So the priest tell her, like, you have to bathe with the Frankenstein oil. This is important. And some other oils, but, you know, she didn't do it. She said that basically the oils were there to basically invite positive spirits. So the scent of the oils is supposed to attract, like, these positive, good spirits to Rose. And she fully didn't do it, so keep that in mind. Rose says because she didn't take her time to actually do each step that the voodoo priest told her to do, she thinks that might be the reason why a lot of the spells winded up falling through. Let's get into it. Yeah? Did I just let a ghost inside of my room? Did y'all hear the crazy? Okay. So soon later after that, she would notice that things started just going wrong around her. Like a lot would happen around her. So she said she was in fact very protected though. The protection spell worked. She stayed in trouble for years, okay? Rose was constantly getting in trouble. And the second she got those bags, she was protected. She managed to stay out of trouble the entire time. So she said for years, and the moment she got the spell, she wasn't noticing any trouble cops that would turn their lights on behind her. Yeah, so she said she wasn't noticing any trouble cops. Like, they wouldn't turn their lights on behind her, or even if the cops would turn the lights on, like, they would drive straight past her car. It was never anything to do with Rose. She said she would even, like, she said she knew she was so protected that she would take these crazy risks, i.e. running red lights. She would run full-on red lights and cops would not stop her. She would not get tickets. Nothing was happening to Rose. So she said, no doubt, that the protection spell worked. The whole reason for her getting the spell was because people in her area were trying to kill her. So she would get into these shootouts where she was barricaded or surrounded by enemies, where she was the only one driving her car, and these motherfuckers were basically shooting up at the car while Rose is just speeding through and just driving past, trying to avoid the bullets from, you know. So that was the whole reason that she got that in the first place, okay? Was because she had people that were trying to unalive her. So she said basically the enemy shot at her car at the time 9 times, and she said till this day you can see the bullet holes in her car. So she said it was a good thing that that day she dropped off her son right before it happened, because the bullets went through the car seat too. So good thing that her son wasn't there. And it's also a good thing that while they were shooting at her car, she didn't duck, because had she ducked, the bullet would have went straight through and it would have penetrated, and that would have been the end for Rose. So after that traumatic shootout with enemies and people trying to get her, it was no doubt that she was gonna go straight to a voodoo priest and order a protection spell. So she said, but she was getting in so much trouble that she wanted one to honestly hit her at the time. She said she was fed up, but gracefully, nothing happened to her. So fast forward back to the spell. One day, her dust bag that she had in the studio room that she got from the psychic man, the voodoo guy, got wet. The bag that she was told under any circumstances never to get wet, got wet. Now she said the bag, okay, so basically the sand, you know, it was inside of a bag. It got wet. So then the bag that was holding the sand winded up disappearing. So she has no idea what happened to it. She has no idea what happened to the bag or how it even got wet. So let's keep going. She doesn't know how the stuff got wet, but she saw ashes and water mixed on the floor in there. And this is where she records her music at. The same day that the bag happened and it got wet and everything, the same day that the sandbag got wet and all of this happened, her studio got broken into. Now keep in mind, the bag with the sand in it was the stuff that was keeping Rose protected. And this is why he said, the voodoo priest said, under any circumstances, you should not get this wet. So now, one of them that she put in her studio had gotten wet. Remember, she had gotten 4. So the one in her studio got wet, it got fucked up, and for some reason, right after that happened, her studio got broken into. So she said, that same day, her studio got broken into, and money from selling and drugs got stolen, window was busted, and all she could do was file a police report. So basically, these people busted into her studio. Now, I don't know what Rose got going on, but Rose is not exactly kosher, okay? Rose had to survive a shootout. So Rose is not just your regular. Now, you can assume what Rose be doing for a living, okay? She's not one of us. She be selling you know what I'm saying? Like, you picking up what I'm putting down. She's not just selling the soft stuff. She's selling the hard, illegal substances that gets people. So she said that day when her studio got broken into, they stole all the drugs that she had, probably illegally, in her studio. They also stole all the money that she made from the paraphernalia, and they also broke her window. So now when we think about money, financials, and how much it's gonna take for Rose to actually get back on her feet, So she said all she could do was file a police report, which she did. And she knew who did it. That was the part. Rose knew who did it, who broke into her studio, who did everything. So she said, after that though, her life just started falling apart. After that spell, her life just started going downhill. Which one day she cussed at God. She got so angry that she started to yell and cussing at God. And I don't know if you've ever been frustrated like that, but I sure have. And she had reached her broken point where she would walk outside, storm out there, and just start going at God and giving God her absolute worst. She said she yelled at him for bad luck and stuff just kept happening to her. And her dumbass blamed God. Because God is supposed to be the one to show her love. It's supposed to be the one to show her forgiveness and, you know, have patience with her. But she had felt like in that moment, God really turned his back on her. So as she's yelling, she's asking God to, she's asking God to show her sign. To show her a sign that he loves her. As she's yelling, she asked God, you know, God, if you love me, show me a sign. Boom, fast forward, the next day. The next day, she said maybe she had gotten her wish because she started noticing an orb of light that started appearing in her studio. So this orb of light came out of nowhere and she was thinking that maybe it was the beam from the sun at first, the reflection on her wall, but she had put a camera in her studio after, you know, her house got broken into, so she knew it wasn't a sun reflection. It had to be some kind of spirit orb because even at night, you can still see it on the wall moving. And she said her camera would alarm her when movements would happen in her studio. So she went into her studio and started interacting with it shortly after. So she went into her studio and interacting with it shortly after. She said she asked it questions in which it would respond by movement. So she would ask questions, instructing it to go left or right. So if it's true, go left. If it's not true, go right. And she says she has a video of her interacting with the orbs. And so I will be including the real life footage of this in this video. So you better stick around and watch the video all the way through. So she says she would have these interactive conversations with these orbs moving around her room. And they were really doing an effective job at answering and moving around. And like she said, she knew this hadn't had to be the sun because the orb still existed during nighttime. So where is that light coming from and why does it move? Cool. And then on top of that, I do find it odd, or if, you know, we have any naysayers in the building, why would the cameras pick up the movement if there's nobody in the room? So cool. So she said within the days, after interacting with it, within the days, this orb that was just a little speck would just grow bigger and bigger and bigger. She said, by the way, I don't know who it was I was thinking. She said, I don't know who it was she was thinking it could have been. Either what came out of that bag or maybe the skull. Okay, so now in this moment, Rose is saying that she's trying to figure out what the fuck this orb could be. Why is it there and why is it moving around? So she assumes since the bag with the sand that the voodoo priest had given her had gotten wet against the instructions that he given her, she thought that maybe the spirit that was stuck inside of the sandbag, that was what was on the wall. Or maybe it could have been the spirit of one of the many people that she unalived. Because Rose at the time was selling and bowing other people. So she didn't know if this was a good thing or if this wasn't a good thing. So she said she didn't know if it was the soul of a guy that she had killed years before accidentally. So it was an accident, okay? Okay, it was an accident. But it happened through selling drugs to him. And basically the guy lied about his tolerance and she sold him, you know, a higher dosage. And you guys can assume that the guy OD'd, unfortunately. So she said the orb would feel heavy in her hands and cold and would always touch her. It wouldn't touch none of her company, even though they wanted it to. It was attracted to her and only her. Within a few weeks, this thing would grow so much that it would grow into the shape of a snake. It went from a very, very small orb of light. It went from a very small orb of light with a halo to a long orb in the form of a snake. Not an actual snake, but it was just taking the form. But it was long. And then she said her as one, when she walked in and saw that, she definitely got scared. And she stopped recording in that studio. Because how do you go from here to a long snake? Like, she said that was enough for her. She exited the studio and she said she just wouldn't come back into it. She said she stopped recording in her studio and she stopped going in there because the orb also seemed to be attracted to her music. It would move around a lot when she records. But when she asked it a question, it gave her the vibe where it was just there to protect her. So who knows? It could have came out when, you know, her house got broken into, through the studio window being broken, or it could have been through the sandbag. It can be anything. Rose did feel like that this orb of light that was now shaped like a snake was actually there for her protection and for her safety. She said shortly after that, her life started getting worse. Bad things started happening to her. Weird things would happen, especially in her house now. A lot of orbs would then appear in her house. So now, remember the orbs things was happening in her studio space before, but now it started happening inside of her house. Somehow those things had made it to her crib where she lays her head. She says within her house, things would disappear, and she would also see eyes on her wall. So she said eyes on some of her wall's pictures would follow her around. So the eyes would move wherever she moves, and she found that extremely creepy. So any pictures that she had up on the wall that had eyes on them, the eyes would follow her wherever she moves. Why is this common in like haunted stories? That's so creepy. So she said she found that extremely creepy, and eventually she abandoned it. And her life just kept falling apart. And after, just kept falling apart after. Until this day, she doesn't know if that voodoo priest put a spell on her, or if just everything went wrong because she didn't follow the instructions. So she don't know if that voodoo priest just fucked her up, or if it's just like because she didn't do exactly what she had to do, that's why everything is going downhill. She said, moral of the story is, be careful what you wish for. She said she would even have dreams of incubuses and succubuses having her, and they even got more and more attached to her because they would disguise themselves as someone that she was attracted to or to her friends. So every time she had those dreams and those demonic spirits, those incubuses, succubuses were having her, they were just taking advantage of her. And not only were they taking advantage of her, but they were dressing themselves as people that she's familiar with. Which, if you guys do not know, sex dreams are not a good sign. You are literally being taken advantage of by demons. So you need to protect yourself, and you need to keep yourself centered. Like watching porn right before bed is not a good idea. Cut it out. But anyway, let's continue. So she says, that friend made it inside her house as a dream, because every time she's having those dreams and those succubuses are taking advantage of her, she wouldn't be aware that it was a dream. Everything was happening and she was lucid through it, which is so unfortunate also. But yes. So the day that she would realize that she was being tricked by a succubus was when this guy that she had fallen out with winded up inside her house wanting to get some. So in that moment, she said, how are you here? Wait a minute. Is this a dream? So then that's when she would snap out of it. So she said, it was a dream and a succubus was tricking her, because when she said, wait a minute, we fell out, the guy looked confused and had that basically that, oh shit, he's been caught look. So the succubuses and the incubuses then, when Rose woke up to that fact, had to find a different way to get to her. When Rose realized that, wait a minute, we already fell out, I don't want to do anything sexual with you, like, what the heck is this? This has to be a succubus. This creature, this guy, would now transform itself into an attractive guy, because it has to do every single thing to get to Rose, to get Rose to lay down and to steal Rose's energy. She said it got to the point where it was happening so often, almost goddamn near every single night, that basically Rose had to find a way to defeat those succubuses and incubuses. She had to be smarter than them, and she had to be a lot more aware in her dream world. So she said when she got onto them, the spirits now got onto her, because the spirits then turned around and started to find a way to keep Rose in her dreams. So if they could keep Rose from waking up, then those spirits also win. So instead of them going in and trying to with her, they were straight up giving her paralysis, where she just would not be able to wake up from a nightmare. She said, the end. Now, she said that's basically what happened. Basically, she didn't tell me anymore. I really wish I could have asked her for part 2, but there's no part 2. I could email her back and I can ask her like, hey girl, like, how's your life now? What's going on? Did you figure it out? But all we know is she did abandon the house. She doesn't live there anymore. But guys, she really wants you guys to know, be careful what you wish for. And also, I'll interject by saying, be careful what type of lifestyle that you put yourself in, because you never understand, because you guys don't understand, karma is for real. Karma is real, and it doesn't skip anybody's door. Sometimes, I could understand why Rose would think that this could be like the voodoo priestess fault, or the fact that she didn't do the oil thing as much as she should have, which I do think played a major factor into all of this, right? However, when we think about it, if you didn't do good your whole entire life, you're gonna start to reap bad. You know what I mean? And I know she also said that she didn't mean to unalive that guy because he lied about his dosage. But when we think about the jobs that we have in society and who we are to society, you know, when we're selling drugs and things like that, it's not affecting our society or our community in a positive way. So when karma comes knocking on your door, it never skips anybody. So, wow. I am that was a crazy story to tell. Thank you guys so much for watching this story time. Thank you for listening. Again, I apologize for being gone for so long. And I know I said last week I was going to post 2 posts in one. And I'm sorry. I am back this week. And I just want to say shout out to my editor. Shout outs to you. You can write your who you are and how the people can find you if they want a video edited as well. I have an editor now, so it makes my job of filming a lot easier, so I don't have to worry about editing and it taking 50 years. Thank you, whoever you are. Put your tag down below. Let the people know it was you. You are holding down the Abducted Human team. I love you. I appreciate you. I love you, Abducted Humans. I appreciate you guys so much. Mwah. Mwah. Leave a comment down below to make sure our video doesn't flop and to make sure, I get my watch hours in. So make sure you leave your comments down below. Make sure you like the video. And also, guys, this is so important. Make sure you turn on your post notifications, okay? So you can get a notification every single time I post a video. So if I post a video in 10 seconds, you should be knowing about it. And you should be clicking on your YouTube to be one of the first people. I appreciate you guys so, so, so much that I need you guys to let me know if you made it this far into my rambling. This is how I'm going to know if you made it this far into my rambling. I need you to comment down below and let me know where you know me from. Did you find me from TikTok or did you find me from YouTube? And while you're there, also tell me, are you following me on Instagram? And if you are following me on Instagram, are you interacting with my content on Instagram? Because all of that matters. All right, bye. I'm not going to hold you guys for so long. I have to go shoot the next video, which will be a conspiracy theory. So, mwah! Bye, my